Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I wanted to come on and do a reading while we're in the midst of these really, really intense energies. It feels like a very strange, a very strange time. I did have a dream last night that was sort of illuminating to me, and I've been seeing certain patterns. So I wanted to just start talking and see what comes through, and then we'll lean into the cards. So last night I was having this dream, and in it I was watching. It was almost like it was on a screen. But it wasn't that I was like watching, watching TV, or I wasn't like watching things on social media. But that's just how it presented in the dream, almost like I was watching from far away. But what was going on is there were just these two people that were in conflict. They were arguing, and it wasn't even like a really huge deal. It wasn't like a huge fight. It wasn't anything like super dramatic or traumatic. But in the dream, it upset me so much, and I was on the verge of tears, and I was with this woman. And so it's a woman in my town, and I've known her a really long time. She was one of the first people that I met here. I don't know her well, but she was just somebody that like I recognized immediately on a soul level. And so we kind of like weave in every once in a while. And she recently told me that I had come to her, I guess, etherically when she was going through sort of a threshold moment, and that I was there energetically in support, and that kind of thing. So we have that kind of connection. And so I ran into her a couple days ago, and we connected in that space, and we had talked about communing, and her energy field was so soft and so tender, and almost like she was on the brink of tears, right? So it's probably why she showed up as that person in my dream, aside from the fact that I think her and I are working on something right now. But that's how I was in the dream, where I was literally on the brink of tears, and I was sharing to her, I just get really, really triggered when there's conflict, which actually isn't true. I'm so used to conflict, and I've been around so much conflict that it actually doesn't trigger me at all anymore. I can just kind of just like hold steady through it. But it reminded me very much of like how a child would be when like mommy and daddy are fighting, and they're just like, no, like what's happening? Like we're love, like we love each other. The world is love. Like what is this distortion? What is this miscreation? Where you just want to burst into tears, and that sort of like childlike feeling of innocence and of remembrance of how things should be, or how things are. So I was fighting back the tears because her and I were in this public space, and there were all these people, and I didn't really understand. I didn't understand why it was upsetting me so much. And then I woke up, and I just like bawled my eyes out. I just released this huge wave of grief and sadness, and what it felt like to me was sacred sadness, like appropriate sadness, where we've got so what's the word, so conditioned, and a lot of the miscreations is the word that's really coming to me, the things that have gotten normalized, that are out of alignment with the truth of our hearts, with the truth of our souls, with the truth of reality, really. The hijacked reality has presented one way. So what's really interesting to me is one, that woman, when I saw her, and she seemed like she was on the brink of tears. So there was just this sadness, this sacred sadness in her field. And then I saw another woman, I think it was the next day, and that was the day, that was right when Uranus was moving out of Taurus and into Gemini. So we were starting to feel that tremble in the field, and that tremble in our nervous systems. And so this reminds me of what I talk about a lot, or what we talk about a lot in different contexts, where there are certain things, whether it's in our daily lives or in the astral realm or the energetic realm, where things are being loosened up, things that we're used to that aren't there anymore. So last time we were talking about the overlays and all the programs and the hijacks and the things being loosened, and we're like, wait a minute, where's my safety net? Where's my demonic safety net? Just because you get used to things, or in your life where like what we were talking about, if you have an injury, or you the loss of somebody, or even somebody's on vacation and you're not seeing them, or your routine or your rhythm, or even I was talking with somebody about not sleeping, like when we go through those periods where we're not sleeping well, and so we're in that liminal space, and we're tired all day long, and we can't do the things we normally do, and yet all those different versions of the shakeup loosen up our energetic field. They loosen up our habits. They loosen up our minds, and then things can clear and things can come in. So that's what I feel is happening right now with Uranus moving into Gemini. And so we're having so many of the outer planets moving into different signs in this year. So it's like right when we acclimate to one, then another one will go. So we're just in this like kind of constant shakeup. And then Gemini, of course, being a mutable sign as well. So there's that sort of like, you don't know where you're at. You don't know where you're at. Just like, feeling unstable, that kind of energy being in there. And then of course Uranus being super electric and super, connected to insights and the mind, and Gemini being the mind. And, so all of these things, but again, that shakeup where things are loosening off, and so I feel like that's probably why, because it was that exact day when this shift was happening, and I ran into another woman, kind of similar, where her and I kind of weave together, and we have done some sessions, and we just kind of commune in that energetic space when the time is right, and so we powwowed a little bit about the energy, and she's like, I just feel so sad. I feel so sad, and almost like this sadness out of nowhere. And that's how it was for me in the dream. It's like, why am I so sad about this? And just weeping in the middle of the night. And I've been feeling that too, like just feeling really, it's not necessarily that I'm really moved by things, but like something will happen that just like releases something for me, and then I'll just cry. Like I'll just feel this deep, it feels like a homecoming type of energy to me, but it's also a little overwhelming, because it's like we don't know where it's coming from, and it, like, even if it feels like a gentle motion that's like wanting to merge with us to kind of like clear the screen of those miscreations. And I think it's like it feels to me like as we're awakening and as we're coming home, like we're like remembering, as we were talking about that in the last reading, that with the Six of Cups, like that, and the Seven of Wands, that original memory, that it's like, oh my gosh, wait, I remember now. I remember before I got all covered up and confused and thought that I was supposed to be doing this, or whatever it was. And also, I just saw my tattoo. So this is the Sirian constellation, and I have a really, really close. It was the first star system, that the first galactics that came to me and presented and just kind of attuned me to that energy and that frequency, and was like, do you remember this? Do you remember? And so it just feels like a real home type of feeling to me, really familiar, very nurturing, very and I have connections with over the years I've developed connections with many, if not all, of the others, at least the ones that have presented themselves to me that I know about. There might be others that I don't know about, but the ones that came through for me in different ways. But the Sirian the Sirian energy is my favorite. It's the one that feels the most nurturing and wonderful, and perhaps it's I don't know, maybe it's the one that I had the most lifetimes or experiences with, or maybe it's the one that's most important for me in this lifetime. But whatever it is, I even tattooed it on me. It's kind of like we're connected. We're hooked up here, but that we are hooked up here. That came out funny, but yeah. So being in that portal, that alignment, our sun with the spiritual sun is what they call it, which is interesting. Sirius being our spiritual sun, which makes sense. It makes sense to me with how I feel about it, about that energy and that frequency. But this time of year is always the first week of July, even though sometimes it's hard. When I look back on other years, it's like I always had some kind of shakeup that kind of threw me, where it was like, whether it was a loss, usually it was some kind of loss or some kind of like betrayal or something that I didn't see coming at all. This year, I didn't have that. I didn't have anything like that. Well, maybe I did. I did kind of have a bit of a shakeup, an unexpected thing where you're like, wait a minute, I didn't see that coming, that type of thing, that type of energy. But it kind of loosens you and allows things in. So we were having, this alignment and all this like beautiful, watery, feminine, remembrant energy coming in, downloading us, expanding us, bringing us back home. That's what it felt like to me. That memory, that homing, that feeling of, oh my gosh, I remember this. Oh my gosh, this is what it feels right to me. This is who I am. I remember, right? And then at the same time, Uranus kind of coming in like lightning, like cracking things off. So just a lot of things around coming home and remembering, which were showing up in that last reading as well. I completely forgot. I always forget. It's kind of like when you forget, like if you live in the desert and you forget that it's always windy in the springtime, or you forget that it's hot in the summer, you forget how fucking hot it is in the summer, right? It's like that. I always forget about this passage, even though it's my absolute favorite all year round. I completely forgot about it, but yeah, that message of remembrance and returning coming in. And so while we're being assisted in all these ways, cosmically, to allow this remembrance to come in, it's kicking up a lot too, right? So it's kicking up a lot of emotion, it seems. So then today I was out and I saw a woman that I connected through, I think through these readings, and we were doing readings on here, and she's living in my town. She used to live here a long time ago, but I didn't know her then, and so she's back now. And I ran into her for the first time today, and she was saying the same thing. She said yesterday she was just on the brink of tears all day long and just like crying, but she didn't know what it was about, and that's how I've been feeling too. But to me, it feels like a really sacred sadness. So after that dream that I had last night, it reminded me, and I can't remember exactly. It might have been something that I read, or maybe something that I remembered. But it was like this image, this visual of like women sitting together, crying and grieving. So it could be like at a funeral where you're all crying and you're like ushering out, in one sense you're crying for your loss and you're crying for your grief, but there's something very spiritual and powerful about the movement of tears through the movement of women or men, but when you're releasing and you're really allowing something to go, it's like a portal or like a safe passage. It's like it's real and it's raw and it's like alchemical and important. And so I feel like there are a lot of us that are doing that right now, that are like deeply feeling the movement of our emotions. And it's like even like music, like there's certain music that's really hitting me right now, where it's like music, because music is like emotion and it's movement, especially if it's really beautiful or really kind of sad or melancholy, just that like that siren call back home, and so last time I was talking about that image of the Lonely Mermaid, that painting that I had, and that sort of feeling of like I'm remembering something, but it's not here. It's like that memory is getting so loud where we're almost like crying it back home, and I just got chills. Oh my God, and it's like we settled for the miscreations, we settled for the lie, we settled for the falsity, we hurt each other, and that's another thing that's been coming up for me. Some of the actions that I've taken in my life because of my own hurt or my own abandonment, which really comes down to our own self-abandonment, our own soul abandonment, the abandonment of our soul, the abandonment of our hearts, the abandonment of our body wisdom, and just betraying and ignoring our cues, our soul's cues, the synchronicity, the guidance, the intuition, the inner knowing, and settling for, whatever it was that we thought we were supposed to do, or like not having validation and not being able to listen to ourselves, and all the ways that we might have hurt ourselves and therefore others, and so I've been having memories of certain things coming in and just being like, oh my gosh, I can't, I can't believe that I did that. I can't believe that I let it get that bad. And then just, that again, that wave of forgiveness for self, forgiveness for humanity, forgiveness for everyone involved, because it's been such a sticky web, and we've all been doing the best that we can. And so this morning, after that dream, I was on Facebook, and later, once I woke up and stuff, but and there was this we have a forum for our county, and everybody posts all kinds of weird stuff, and or not weird stuff, just everything, anything you can imagine. And there was this video that somebody took of these cops, and it was out at night, and this cop was holding this like little baby bunny by the back of its neck. And at first I was like, why is he holding it like that? Why is he holding that little baby bunny? And I didn't have the sound up, and then I turned the sound up, and the one guy was like, let it go, and then the other guy was like, let me hold it, and the guy was like, he wanted to let it go too. It felt like those two of the cops were wanting to let the baby bunny go. And then there was this other cop, that like wanted to hold the baby bunny, and the guy was like, you better not kill it. And he's like, I'm not going to kill it. And it's such a horrible story. I'm sorry I'm telling it, but it's kind of like this kind of thing right now, right? Like confronting the ways we've gotten, like just personally on a personal level. We could look at it, on a large scale, but it feels like it's hitting like us, it's part of our passage, because it is all an inside job, and that forgiving self, and that sort of like looking at the ways we've abandoned ourselves, our soul, and all the miscreations that happen because of that. It's like this passage of having to move through it. And even if, I'm going to finish that story, but even if we're not aware, like that woman, with the sadness and just crying, and even me, like not know, even if we don't know what it is that we're crying and releasing, there is that release and that movement, right? It's just like moving through. And so Anyways, then he gives the guy the baby bunny, and he like bangs it against the truck and just kills it. And everyone on the forum was just so mad. You know, we were all so mad and heartbroken. And on the one hand, it was beautiful to see the whole community just like rallying together at the wrongness that happened to that little baby bunny. You know, and then on the other hand, you know, it stirred up a lot of anger and sadness, and it's just like watching the news where you watch something horrible and then you leak your energy, you get all mad about it. But what I found within myself eventually as I went through that process was just compassion for the man, because I thought, like, imagine how it is to live. You know, he's just living all his miscreations, and he hasn't awakened yet to the fact that they are. And when he does, which I think we all will, you know, more and more and more and more, it's like, imagine the amount of grief that you have to move through. God, I'm getting dizzy just thinking about it. And I think that's where a lot of people they don't confront their miscreations. They don't come back to their soul because they've gotten so far away from it that it's really hard to come back. And yet our souls want us to come back to that. They want us to come back to that alignment and to that truth and to that humility and to that connection. And I see it in my son as well, you know, ways that he played out. You know, he played out the trauma and the abuse in the family, and he came in with his own, you know, whatever his own soul journey was and whatever he brought through with him. And but I'm seeing him reflecting and regretting and you know, having those coming to Jesus moments within himself. And I think a lot of people are. This man hasn't yet, or maybe he is. Maybe he will after that video. I don't know. It's being spread all around. But the point being just that kind of compassion and forgiveness for all of us, because we're all caught in this web, and we're caught in the webs of our past as well. You know, some of us, and some people carry codes of really dark bloodlines and really dark histories, you know, and have done willingly and choosing that service to self type of energy, and then in this lifetime turning around, you know, and some people really choosing to turn around, and some people leaving, you know, and being recycled and having to start back over, but that being their choice as well, because they want to get it right. And so it feels like there's a lot of that. And so that's what was coming up in that last reading as well, the hijacks and the overlays and all that falsehood being unplugged, where it's like we're not being held and manipulated in it with such a ferocity as before, where we couldn't see out of it. It's like now we can see out of it. Now we have to take that responsibility, that self responsibility, to make those amends within ourselves through that forgiveness and through that feeling and through allowing, like me in the dream, like holding back my tears because I just didn't want to like break down like in the middle of public. So I woke up so I could do it. You know, I woke up so I could do it. And I love the woman that I saw today. She just let herself cry like in the middle of her job, and was just like, it's okay, you know, just letting things flow, and just the wisdom and the beauty in that, and allowing these processes and knowing that it's important to honor that sacred sadness, because it's like a soul call. It's a soul reclamation. It's honest. It's honest, instead of like making excuses or, you know, like, you know, sometimes even the forgiveness or the compassion can go so far as like we don't feel the feelings that we're feeling, and it feels like those feelings really want to be felt right now. And again, we don't have to know what they're connected to, but that was the insight that I got, that it's really connected to our miscreations, and to the miscreations through our lineage and through the collective and through our Akash and through our timelines and all the times and ways. And so, okay, so this was what I was saying about the funeral, people getting together and crying. So there's a whole group of us kind of like grieving and releasing and like reclaiming, and there's magic and there's alchemy in that, almost like we're crying rivers, we're crying our souls back home, and we're doing it for humanity. So again, it's that empathic thing where, you know, sometimes our greatest gift can be our greatest weakness, where, you know, we're just feeling everybody else's feelings because nobody else is, and then we're debilitated and we can't even function in the world. But sometimes our greatest gift is our greatest gift, and I feel like there's a real potential for us to harness that empathic feeling nature, and to do it consciously and wisely, where we are honestly feeling the truth of what needs to be felt, which is those miscreations were goddamn blasphemous heartache, you know, that we got so far. And again, it's understandable, and we hold ourselves and everybody else in compassion, but to allow that feeling, that overwhelming flow that wants to come through. And so we had that major flooding in Texas, you know, that major flooding, all that water. And what's interesting is today was a very sunny day. It was really, really, really hot. And then right before I sat down to do this reading, it clouded over, it started thundering, and it started raining. And it's past now because my daughter needed to make food, and I had to wait for her and stuff like that. But yeah, just the water and the environment supporting this, and also creating more tragedy, more to grieve, and that grieving and that releasing and that longing and that feeling and that regret and that all of those feelings feel really, really important right now. Sometimes, perhaps the bigger picture is what's most important, in a certain moment. The medicine's always changing. It's like we're shapeshifters, whatever is called for in a certain moment, whatever's in the highest benefit, whatever's in the highest healing is what we can pull through. And right now that feeling in those waters, and that release and that deep aching grief, it's the deep aching apology to our soul and to the soul of this world. And it's appropriate. And it's coming back. We're getting our souls back. We're turning back to our souls. We're choosing ourselves. And by ourselves, I mean the big S, our souls, our intuition, our guidance, our oneness, our connection to all that is. We're choosing that. And so there's inevitably, it's like I'm not like finding the exact words that I want to use. Sometimes, how that happens, like there's such a holy and a sacred energy around it. And it's almost like human words don't capture it, but maybe I will at some point in this reading. But so I think I'm going to pull some cards. I'm going to jump into the cards now and see what else might want to come through around this. What else from what I said wants to be said. So overall energy, wow. Panther spirit, reclaim your power. And that is kind of the energy where it's like, Panther, I feel like there was some synchronicity with Panther. I'm not remembering it. There was something with Panther recently. What was it? God, maybe it'll come to me. And 44 being a card, a number of safety, a number of stability, but lately it's been coming through as the higher timeline, as the template that we're building for this higher timeline. So here we are reclaiming our power and stepping onto this higher timeline, to our highest trajectory, to that highest outcome. The sun's coming out, which it's been so freaking hot today, but it just kind of felt like it's been so gray, and it felt like right as I'm saying this, this, you can see the lighting. Can you see the lighting changing? But yeah, reclaiming our power and stepping into the truth of our creation. We're creating from our souls. We're not creating from the hijack. We're not creating from the overlays. We're not creating from the mind control. We're not creating from what we're conditioned to think that we should be because we feel that we're not enough. We're turning back to ourselves and reclaiming our power as that co-creative force. But that panther is going to go in and eat up all the shadow. It's going to go in and point out where you need to look and feel, like where you need to say, yes, I see what I did there. Yes, I see that, and I own that, and I own that was a miscreation. I own that was a self-rejection, and I own that I created a whole bunch of bullshit in my life and in the lives of others, and we've all been doing this. We've all been living through the program, through the code, through the false code, and now we're coming out of the false code, and we're coming back into our true power as creators. Okay. So, template builders, we're anchoring the template, but it seems like those of us that are on the front of the wave, that are the front runners, are doing that. A lot of us are doing it through that deep feminine emotion, that deep feminine feeling, that self-responsibility, where you're just allowing yourself to feel it, to feel how bad it's gotten, knowing that that's part of how we're anchoring the new. It's like we have to clear it out. We got to clear out the last drugs. We can't take any of this with us. So it is part of the clearing where we have that empty vessel. We have that empty vessel that can be filled with our spirits, with everything that we kept out because we thought it was wrong, or we, whatever it was, whatever the story we were told and told ourselves, we allow it all to fill back in now, to be the vessel for ourselves as intended, that true soul, and also that Aquarian age energy where we're all embodying our unique spark and our unique version of all that is, that only we can bring forward, and being responsible to bring it forward and to not bring forward anything that's false or anything that's programmed or anything that's regurgitated, being the true God spark of you, and bringing that forward, reclaiming the right and the power to do that. as we build an anchor, this, which because that is the New Earth template, that is true community. You know, there are a lot of people that live in community, but they take all their baggage, they take their miscreations, they take their inability to look at the miscreations and their excuses and their acceptance, the acceptance of the miscreations as normal, because they're not turning and looking, which is what we're doing now. We're turning and we're feeling, and it's like coming home to Jesus, you know, like my son, yeah, that saying, coming home to Christ consciousness, coming home to our souls, you know, and seeing like that straight look in the eye, like I'm not gonna pretend this is okay any longer. Just because I don't want to look at how bad I let it get, I'm going to look, you know, and then we're cleared, you know, it's that redemption, you know, it's that redemption and that homecoming, again, that the Sirian portal, the homecoming, do you remember where you came from? This is where we're going. So what happened for me is I was pregnant, and I had, the soul that was with me was Sirian, and I ended up having an abortion because I didn't want to have a baby with that man that I was with. I didn't want to. I didn't feel that it was right. But I feel that the Spirit knew that and came to me for just a short time to kind of ignite me in that way. And I had been having all these synchronicities with Sirius before that. I didn't really know anything of the dog star. You know, that's all I knew. You know, I didn't know anything about it, but it just kept coming and coming and coming. And then I always, my two children that I do have, I would communicate with their spirits. And I still communicate with, my daughter and I are around each other all the time. And we're always just sort of like Siamese twins and merged, finish each other's sentences and all that. But my son and I connect with his higher self, and we talk sometimes, and he's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, he has such a beautiful kind of like Andromedan angelic energy, even though he can be a little gnarly here, you know. But anyway, so that's something that I did even before I was awakened. It just was natural for me to connect with the spirits, the oversouls, the higher selves of my children. And so that happened with this being as well. And so it was really, really beautiful. It was a really beautiful, important thing for me. And it really, really started me on my remembrance journey of the higher frequencies. So anyway, but yeah, that Sirian energy and that homecoming energy coming in, reminding us of where we came from and where we're going, which is what that soul had said to me, and just really in having his spirit, because you know we really merge with our children, the spirits of our children when they're with us. So I also had an abortion with my daughter, because I was in a really awful marriage, and I was like, I can't bring another child into this marriage. I absolutely cannot. And so I had an abortion. And as she was leaving, I realized and remembered that her and I were supposed to do this together. And I just called her back. And I didn't mean to, but I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't know. I forgot. We're supposed to be together. And then as soon as I healed, she came back again. And I knew it was the same one, because it was the same spirit, and that's my Arame. And so anyway, but with this soul, it did feel very clear to me that was our soul agreement to be together for that time, and that remembrance and that coming home to our souls. And so I got kind of lost in that sharing, and I don't remember what my point was, because I really felt the energy of that. But maybe you got a transmission from that as well. So I'm just gonna move on, and then if there was something else I was gonna say, then I trust it will it'll come back. All right, so let's see. Oh, wow. Oh, beautiful. So the sun card being the happiest card in the deck, it is a card of illumination and energy of illumination. So coming out with this Panther spirit, that reclaiming your power, there's this huge illumination. So that's what's going on. It's like all this sadness and all this release and all this, it's literally, and coming out after that reading, if you didn't see that last reading, I was talking about, the removal, the unplugging of the things that have really held us in the system and in the mind control program, and that being off. So I almost like the cage door is open, you know, we might still be sitting in the cage, but it's like, no, you're free now to come out, you know. And because of that, because we're not being siphoned, our energy's not, unless we're choosing to, we might still be choosing to, but I was saying that in the last reading as well, it's not going to be so sticky hooky, you know. It's just coming from our habit, from like our pattern, you know, our fear, even our fear to do something different, to change, to come out of the cage. But it's not going to be the same kind of hooky type of energy where we're literally stuck, right? So there's an illumination going on for everybody, and that's what I was talking about in that last reading too. This is for everybody. Everybody is having those places, those darker places, those shadow places where they have gotten confused or played small or abandoned themselves or their soul or their mission or the truth of who they are. It's being illuminated. It's being illuminated, and so that being a lot of what that kind of like watery crying ourselves back home, crying our souls back home, calling out. It reminds me of this one song. I think I'll post this one song. To me, it's like I remember when I was going through something and I was remembering parts of myself, and I just sat on my floor and listened to the song over and over and over again, and I wept. It was like that. It's the perfect song. You know how sometimes you're like, I need to cry. Well, when I was younger, I would watch Romeo and Juliet, you know, the original Romeo and Juliet, and I would just cry and cry. I remember the first time I saw it, I must have cried for 5 hours. It was so coded for me. It held so many codes. There were so many things that I remembered, but I didn't remember. You know, it's like my soul was just like, wow, you know. And so this song is similar for me. I'll post it below. Wow. So we get the Queen of Wands. So this came up in the last reading, the Queen of Wands, and we were talking about when we're not leaking our energy anymore, and we're not feeding the wrong things, we're not feeding the shadows, we're not feeding the false systems, we're not feeding our addictions, we're not feeding our low self-esteem, we're not, you know, doing things from low self-esteem and from abandoning our souls. When we abandon our souls, then we don't have that inner guidance. We have to follow something external and outside of ourselves and jump through everybody else's hoops to prove to them, you know, that we're okay. We're trying to prove it to ourselves when all we have to do is seal up those energy leaks and come home, you know, which is what we're realizing right now. Humanity is realizing this right now. And then we have that circuitry intact and we're magnetic. And what I love about this card in this deck is she's like, oh my God, look, I created fire in my hand. I didn't even know that I could do that. I didn't even know that I wanted to do that. And just, again, that power, the power that we have when we pull back our energy from these leaks. But I mean, that was sort of like what was coming up in the last reading, is like this in this moment now, I feel that we've already done that to enough degree that it's almost like the gosh, I don't have very good analogies today. That's frustrating when that happens. Sometimes they just flow right off, but it's okay. It's all right, because we've all been kind of going through it, and the nervous system's a little fried right now and all that. But it's almost like the things that were stuck to the walls, you know, it's like with this circuitry intact, we have enough of our own life force flowing through. It's like in energy sessions, or if you do craniosacral work, you know, it's the cerebral spinal fluid that holds that higher self intelligence. And when we get clogged up with the miscreations, you know, with the traumas and the loops and the addictions and the ways that we're in the ways that our thoughts or our energy or our patterns are looping and creating stagnation, or, you know, it's like the energy can't flow and go into all of our organs and all of our energy centers and every part of our body the way it's meant to, you know, gets clogged up. So it's not communicating in that way. But so it's like this, when you're all in alignment and your energy is flowing the way it needs to flow, there's that illumination where your higher self can flood in and you can know what you need to know, and you can be in alignment with what you're in alignment with and pull it in and be a match to it, you know. And that's when you have this power that you didn't have before. You didn't have it before because you're all kinked up. You're like in a pretzel, you know, being like, dear God, please help me manifest this thing. And it's like, well, straighten out, you know, get your circuitry going. You don't have to ask anybody. It just appears because you've done that work, and you are a match to your own frequency, and you're not blocking it in any way. So, okay. I feel like there's a little bit more that wants to come through with that card, but let me pull a clarifier here. So what do we get? Oh yeah, the Queen of Swords. So the Queen of Swords, she is the one with the boundaries. She sees really, really clearly. She knows exactly. Nobody can pull the wool over the eyes of the Queen of Swords. She knows when there's a trick. She knows when there's a manipulation. She knows when somebody's trying to vamp off her energy. She knows when, you know, she knows when to say yes and when to say no, and she takes care of herself. She doesn't doubt herself. She doesn't ignore her inner knowing. She's really, really cunning and smart, you know, smart but discerning and wise. And so these two together, the Queen of Wands, who's super magnetic. But why? Because this aspect of her, you know, and like we were saying before, the shape shifting, where whatever part of you is needed for the present moment is the one that flows through. You know, it's like the boundary piece is really coming up, where that boundary around the circuitry of the magnetic one, you know, where we can be a match and pull in and really be in our power, and have the circuitry intact, where we can pull in that illumination and that clarity. So that's really interesting. I wonder if we're going to get the Queen the Queen of Cups as well. Let's see. Oops. All right. Okay. So we get two cards. The Knight of Cups. Interesting. And this is sort of like a romance card. You know, he's there with his roses. He has his white horse. That's interesting. Is it a unicorn? It's not a unicorn, but it does kind of have a shaft of light above it. So there is sort of that enchanted kind of energy with this as well. And then this little picnic table there with that note, that love note, you know. So this kind of energy coming in. But this is what we're doing for ourselves, where we're like, I'm so sorry, you know, I would like to come back to you and make this up to you, you know, and we have our roses and we're sitting on our chair and we're willing to listen and we're willing to show up for ourselves. So there's the cups. So this is the watery energy because we have the fire in the air, and now here's the water. We also have cups and cups, the Knight of Cups and the Ten of Cups. And this is that heaven on earth energy where you're also, you know, kind of like the Queen of Wands, where you're one with yourself and you're a match. And this is what unfolds from the magnetism, that sort of heaven on earth timeline where you just feel at peace and you're not at war with yourself. So we were talking about that, I think, in that last reading as well. You're not at war with yourself, so you're not creating war in your outer world. You're creating and attracting in situations that are a match to you and that make sense to you and that are of the same fabric as you. You know, you have the same rainbow cloak woven together. You weave it together and then threads just fit, you know, you and your soul family. But it really starting again with that inside job of turning back to yourself, turning back and saying yes to your soul, and saying yes and feeling that. So I feel like that's a lot of what the energy is right now, that watery feeling. This can be a card of self-love, you know, a card of self-love and soul love. Again, the self being the larger self, you know, where you're loving what you came in with, you're loving your transmissions, you're loving your unique expression that only you carry in this realm, and bringing that forward and honoring it, and that again being the key to unlocking everything. We've always had, you know, we've always had the key. We've always had the power to live and attract from what we are, the truth of what we are. But we've just turned away from ourselves, and so again, those tears and those feelings being just the releasing of all the ways that we've turned away from ourselves. So okay, let me pull a few oracle cards. I know I always say this, where I'm like, I think we're gonna make this reading a little shorter, and then it's never any shorter, but it could be. Oh, okay, so that's beautiful. So we get two cards here, Retreat and Source. These cards are a little interesting. This kind of looks like a tunnel to me. So again, retreating back into the soul, into the source, our source, you know, our connection to source, that portal, you know, going back to the back of that. It's interesting because not all of these cards are like that. You know, a lot of them are here. This one has crystals and, well, yeah, that one kind of has a cosmic feeling with the planets, but these both kind of have this sort of cavey feeling, going back into that, like that watery portal, and just all of this sort of geometry here. It's almost like this is our geometry, this is our soul signature, and just hooking up with ourselves and taking the time retreating to do that, and but there is a certain energy that's coming through with these cards that kind of reminds me of that feeling, that portal of that crying our souls back home, that release. It's almost like we've never been here before. We've never been to this exact place. We've never been like this deep in our soul retrieval. You know, we might have been grabbing fragments and going back and, you know, doing that deep shadow work and that astral realm work where we're retrieving specific lost parts, or collapsing timelines, or working with your oversoul group, and, you know, doing like we were talking about last time, you know, those certain things that we came in to collapse, those certain traumas that we've taken on. This almost feels like when all that, like the slate is clean, and there's just, yeah, like this blank slate, and then we get to slip into this. Like, look at that. That is such a beautiful portal. It's like, what is inside there? You know, like this green sphere of self-healing, you know, like it's connected to your source. It's almost like things are possible now that weren't possible before. We might have seen that vision, and we might have known that you know, we could feel this energy sort of like swirling around us as a potential. But it's like we're finally at this point where we're able to go back in and grab it and connect with it. That's just sort of like a channel, like a feeling that I'm feeling right now. Let me pull a couple more cards and see if there's more that wants to come through about that. Yeah, it's like we're at this access point that wasn't possible before. And maybe not everybody, of course, not everybody. This is in waves, and you know, it's like I do kind of read on different levels, and I feel like I can read for different collectives, but there's always a lot about the certain collective that I'm in, of course, right? And those that parallel, you're going to be the people that resonate with these readings the most. So there it is, the Three of Cups, and that's exactly what I was just talking about, this sort of collaboration type of energy. And again, the cups again. What is that? Is that a crystal? I feel like there's like this beautiful crystal down here. I have this crystal, not this one. This is like my Lemurian quartz, but I have a lightning struck Lemurian quartz as well. And I keep moving it around because it's this energy of like breaking up the patterns. You know, the lightning comes in, strikes this crystal, and there are all these like rainbow fractals, you know, that go all out through through the crystal. I got it during the Syrian portal 3 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago, and it really, really helped me move through that threshold that I keep mentioning in these readings. And so I've been feeling this crystal again, and now it kind of makes sense because it's like there is this kind of portal-y type of energy this time of year, and the ability to walk through. And so I've been moving this crystal around different parts. I've been having it in my yard, like I had it by my Ganesh, and then I had it in this other spot that, like, you know, it's like I'll have like certain spots that I anchor energy. So I've been moving it around. I've been like working with this crystal. So anyway, it really reminds me of that right here. It looks so much like it, and I don't have good eyesight, so I can't really tell what it actually is. I should bring my reader glasses up here when I do these, but I kind of like just the association of not seeing. That's what it looks like to me moving around. Okay, so that crystal kind of breaking up those patterns, and here's this collaboration of these people sort of in celebration, but that, again, I was talking about the group effort that a lot of us are doing right now, where we're working with the Lemurian crystal with the memories of those time, the memory of what we're coming back to, breaking up the pattern, like what we were talking about in the beginning. You know, Uranus coming in, the lightning coming in and breaking up that calcification of the crystal, you know, and allowing it to remember, allowing its memories to become unlocked. You know, where you're riding those rainbow frequencies, you're riding the energies. You're not calcified up in the patterns and in the conditioning or what your life has been. You know, you're open. I kind of have rainbows on today, interestingly, and even these are kind of rainbow colors, different decks, but similar with the greens and the blue and the pink and the red. Yeah, I love it when that happens. Just noticing the colors and the communication and the patterns. And so anyway, but yeah, working on this together, you know, it's like we're retreating within ourselves, and we're going into that source within, and we're unlocking something. But there's a lot of us doing that, or there's a lot of us doing that at the same time. So even though it is a very sort of solitary thing, and you might feel kind of lost or kind of like, what am I doing? You know, what is going on? You know, it's like we might feel, for me, I feel this type of energy on the other side, but it's almost like the depth of the soul retrieval that we're in right now. I don't even know if that's the right word. The depth of the reunion that we're in right now is it's almost like that, again, that caterpillar super, like everything's sort of collapsing, like everything is collapsing because, again, we can't take the false creations with us, so they have to go. But my daughter and I have been talking about this. Oh shoot. Hold on. Okay. So I have a friend that's dropping something by, but I'm in the middle of this reading, so I might just kind of wrap this up. It's so funny that she's here right now. She's like my Lemurian. She's like this. She's like this. Okay. Yeah, her and I are like this, and here she is right now. So anyway, but going in and retrieving these pieces deep within ourselves. I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm debating whether or not to just get up real quick and tell her. I think I will. Can you hold on 1 minute? I'll be right back. Okay, thank you. If any of you are still here, oh, that's so cute. Okay, because I just wanted to finish this thought. Anyway, so let me try to get back to this. Let me pull another card and see if it can get me back on where I was. Okay, so there we are, collaborating with our soul family, right, as one of my core people just shows up. She's actually dropping off a bunch of stuff. She's moving and she's downsizing, and she's gifting my daughter and I with a bunch of like beautiful sacred things. So with her energy, oh wow. So the Three of Wands, so the Three of Wands being a card of moving forward, being exactly where you need to go, exactly where you being at exactly the right place in exactly the right moment. So we have the Three and the Three of Cups and the Three of Wands. So there we are, moving forward. Okay, so and moving forward together. And I think that's the message, and also the symbol of her coming in at this time where it's like this is a group effort, even if we feel very, very alone, where it's like you're almost like going back into that. I know what I was going to say. Two sides of the same coin, like which always comes up, right? Because we are in the realm of duality. So it's like at the same time that we are coming into this energy and coming into this, the old is releasing, you know. So it's the exact same motion, almost like right as the one dumps out, the other one's there, you know. And it's like it's two sides of the same coin, but there's such an equal measure that it can be hard to feel them both, you know. It's like they meld and they merge into one, so you can't even separate them out. And that's what I've been feeling lately, and also seeing in others when we've been communing, where it's like we can't really tell where we're at. Like everything just feels kind of strange, but really it's like when you become nothing, you become everything, right? That kind of thing, where that's where it collapses, where the circle meets and everything comes back into wholeness. There's an energy like that, and so it's really powerful and intense, but kind of confusing. But we are moving forward, and we are doing this together. Okay, so let me do one last card, and then I am going to stop there. I feel like I got a little bit scattered, but that's okay. The energy is still their benediction. Yeah. So that's that receiving something. That's that gift. That's that energy coming in. Okay. When we are receiving this, and so here are these circles again, where we're going in, and the gift, and even the symbol of my friend bringing to gift us things right now. You know, that benediction. Just again the patterns. Going in to receive the gift of ourselves again, because our circuitry, we've done a lot of that cleanup, or we're in the process of it. Knowing that when we do that, what's on the other side of doing that, if you are still kind of struggling with releasing some of the ways that you've been leaking your energy or being stuck, you know, the more you can cut that out, even though it brings you into this sort of like, I don't know where I am, like I don't know what I'm doing, there's nothing left, you know, just that void space. That void is the womb space. It's the portal of creation, and on the other side of that creation is that 4-4, that template building, that new earth energy. So here we have again that heaven on earth timeline, where we collapse into the portal of ourselves, into that power, and we can again feel like we're losing everything, and maybe we are losing everything, but what we're losing was not real. And when we surrender to that, we allow ourselves to go the whole way through, we are moving forward, and we are doing it in collaboration with others. We're not alone in it, even though we feel like we can be alone. And we immediately receive, because it's like everything that's leaving, we can be focused on that in the same exact motion. Things are coming in. So to let those things go completely, whether it's tears or whether it's relationships or whether it's attachments or self-concepts or whatever it is, just having boundaries around them and knowing that they can't come with you. And there's nowhere else to go but into this full illumination. This is where we're going, you know, back into our power, back into that new earth template. We can't hang in the old world. We're only going to suffer more and more and more if we do. So to be vigilant with cutting those things out, because we have to, you know, but we're going to be taken care of when we do, and there's that leap of faith. So, but I really do feel that the energy right now is mostly this, you know, mostly this kind of voidy energy, where you're going into that tunnel, and you're feeling this. So if that's dominating for you, just knowing that right on the other side of that coin is this energy, and that you are going the whole way through. It doesn't feel like it was two videos ago, where we were on that threshold energy, that threshold moment where we were trembling and feeling like we were losing our minds. And, you know, if you were relating to that, it's like we have gone through, you know, but then there was this whole sort of acclimation type of energy, where we were like getting our bearings, and now it's starting to shift again, where things more is purging off and leaving. And this is just kind of the summary, because there is this sort of like ineffable energy, this ineffable sort of sacredness that I don't even have words for. So this kind of captures it the best. This right there, that kind of captures it the best. The transmission of that, like through the source back into our source, and everything that unfolds from there, and having this beautiful energy of empowerment and illumination, and self-love, and the heaven on earth, timeline, and the benediction, and the moving forward, and the collaboration. So hopefully there's something in there, if you are in this space of feeling a little bit drifty and strange, that there's enough of a message of hope and of understanding of how important and crucial this time is, because it's like a pulse shift where it's flipping. We're flipping out of the shadow. We're flipping out of the false programs, like we were saying last time, but in that same instance, we're flipping into our power. We're flipping into that template and into the truth of reality, the true reflection of us, because we're coming back to ourselves. But it doesn't feel very good. It doesn't feel very good. It doesn't feel very comfortable. It doesn't feel very clear. And yet just knowing that that's what this time is about, and allowing those tears, and allowing that benediction to come through your own tears, through your own honesty, through your own emotional integrity, right? Okay, so I'm going to stop there, and I hope that was helpful. I'm sorry, I got a little bit scattered by her coming, but I know that everything happens exactly as it needs to, and there's just some sort of transmission in that as well, even if I got a little weird and lost my train of thought. So, all right, well, much love to you, and thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time if I do. Okay, bye-bye.